Hello and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to 𝐻𝐼�voltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at 𝐻𝐼�voltleadership. My guest this week is Jody Milward. Jody is the founder of Social Charlie and the host of the popular YouTube channel Online Confidential. Jody boldly calls herself an accidental entrepreneur. She really didn't know much about what it meant to be in business for yourself, but with a growing family and the need for flexibility, she knew she needed something that would fit her lifestyle. It was during her stint in social sales that she really started to learn about marketing and, in particular, Facebook ads. But it's her time as a private investigator that she credits with much of her ability to learn and adapt very quickly. Now, she's built a business that is all about supporting and mentoring others as they build their ad manager businesses, and she really loves her thriving community. Well, I have a really great guest here today on the podcast. Jody Milward is here to talk to us all the way from Australia. So excited to have you on the show here today. Thanks for spending some time with me.
So this is where I should say, "G'day, Lindsay."
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank
It's
you.
awesome. Crikey, mate. Oh, we're going to have a great time.
Yes, thank you for doing that. That's fantastic. We always want to hear that from our Australian cousins. I just love it. Jody, I want to talk to you today about your journey to being a female founder because I know it's a really interesting story.
Oh, man, it is. And it's just such an unexpected one. And this is where I call myself like an accidental entrepreneur because I had no idea what even an entrepreneur was. Like, as I started out in this journey, someone said to me, "Oh, this is very entrepreneurial of you." And I was like, "What's that word even mean? What is that? I don't know." So it just happened out of necessity, as it is with a lot of women that I talk to, in that we've gone off, we've done school, we've gone, had our job, and then had kids. And it's that life change of like, okay, I need to do something that's going to be more flexible to my family.
Mm-hmm.
So we start looking at opportunities that aren't just the normal 9 to 5 status quo. We start looking at what can I do, like working from home. So I didn't even realize, is that an entrepreneurial thing? So yeah, so with that, 3 little kids under the age of 4, and it was like I had to do something that was going to be, flexible with school. I have all these school holidays. So I thought, I'll be a teacher's aide, right? Perfect. Well, I was standing there in the playground surrounded by 50, that's 50, screaming 5-year-olds, and very quickly realized that, hey, this is not the gig for me, right? I'm happy to like send my kids off to school. What am I doing here with all these strangers' kids looking after their kids for the day? So it was like, okay, I need to do something else. So I started looking at what can I do from home? And I fell into unclaimed money recovery. So Robin Hood kind of situation. I got a private investigator license. So I was a private investigator, but no spouse busting or car park stakeouts. It was just skip tracing, finding people saying, hey, you've got $50,000 that the government's taken from you. Did you know that? And let's get it back to you. Now, of course, the government didn't like that terribly much. They liked holding on to all of this money. So I was like, okay, it's time for something new. And that's where I started a company with a couple of friends, weight loss, and we started, we white labeled supplements. And so we started down the marketing trail. And I, was learning about Facebook and advertising on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I just could see what opportunities it opened, not just for any business to promote themselves on Facebook and really position themselves as the authority, but also for where I was with like, what's a service that I can provide to businesses? So learning Facebook ads and providing that as a service. So that's been my journey up to this
Wow.
point. Private investigator to Facebook ad strategist, not the career progression they tell you at school, well, not even a career, it's that entrepreneurial thing and, you know, leading your own, walking to the beat of your own drum. That's it.
I love that. That I mean, my mother would call that following your nose. Like you
Yeah.
just sort of kept asking great questions and kept getting
Mm.
curious and kept saying, "Well, I can do that."
Yeah.
And look at where it's led you.
Yeah, I know. It is amazing. And I think that's where we can get caught up with things, right? Because me, like anyone, like it's opened up a world of opportunities. Like we were talking earlier about COVID and all of
Yeah.
that. When Australia was in lockdown with COVID, like you could not leave the country, you could not come into the country, you had to do 2 weeks quarantine coming into it. But because and of my connections, I do a lot of work with people in America. I was actually able to get two government exemptions to travel and go over to America. So I was on a big, huge plane that
Yeah.
normally have 400 people that had like 20 people on it, and go
What?
over. And LAX was the arrivals. It was just me and the worker, and it was like, this is just so surreal. So experiences like that, being able to travel with the family, being able to work from home and work my own hours. So we can get so caught up with the doing and always going, okay, there's more. Here's my goals. This is what I want to do. That we don't actually stop and look at, like, hang on, just have a look at what you've created here. And sometimes, some other people will say, wow, you travel a lot or whatever. And you go, oh, wow, I guess I do. And you take it for granted. So
Mm.
it's, yeah, really important to, keep looking back to go, okay, I may not be where I want to be, but look at what I have been able to do, achieve, provide for my family, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, it's important to look back and acknowledge how much we've done sometimes.
Yeah, I really like that because I do. I think, as female founders, we are very driven. We're very focused. We're very goal
Yes.
oriented. We're
Yeah.
real high achievers. And so there's a negative side to that, which is that we don't stop nearly enough to
Yeah.
reflect on, look at where we are, look at how far we've come. I was just having a conversation today, a networking call, and it actually had a moment where I was like, I really launched my business in October of 2019. And we
Mhm.
all know what happened about 6 months after that.
We got 2020'd.
We we totally got COVID, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like that too, where I don't reflect nearly enough on, hey, wait a second. I've kept a business afloat and I've grown it during a
Mm.
time of incredible anxiety. The world economy just went for a loop. We were all terrified. We didn't know what was going to happen to us and the people we loved. And the fact that I've even come out of that on the other side with my sanity feels like a real achievement. So
Yeah.
I really love that. Jody, one of the things you talked about is that the being. And I think, you hit on something really important there in that we do get really caught up in all the doing, all the
Mhm.
things, and we do forget about who we are meant to be and what's most important to us, what makes us who we are. And what I love in your reflection here on your journey is that it has included those spaces of, wait a minute, what's most important to me, my three little kids and how I can help them, the flexibility, the freedom, those are really important values. And that you've leveraged those in creating now what is a really successful business, I think is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, it, like we were just saying, you can get so caught up with it.
Oh yeah.
And I know through all of that, like I said, my kids were little when I got started with this, like back in 2008. I think the youngest one then was 7 as well. That's when I really, got into the unclaimed money recovery side of things, or
Mhm.
even a couple of years before that. But I can look back and go, oh man, I did work too hard. I wasn't there as much as I would like to be,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I'm really intentional about making up for time now. And that's what I would recommend to people as well, is to, like, have those boundaries, even if you are working from home or even if you're not working from home. admittedly working from home is harder because it's like, you can just waltz into the office at any
Yeah.
time and do anything. To be very intentional about, okay, I'm stopping work at this time. I'm actually making dates with the kids. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, once a month, let's go out for coffee, let's go out for brunch, let's go out for whatever. And so that is an intentional time. So it is, because I mean, if you don't put things in the calendar, we know how fast this year has gone,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, has it been 2 months already? So putting it into the calendar is such an important thing.
Yeah. You know what? I think you're right. And we are very calendar driven.
Hmm.
And I say this to, to friends all the time, like, let's just get something in the calendar, even if it's a month from
Yeah.
now, 6 weeks from now, even if it needs
Yeah.
to change, we can always be flexible with it. But let's make a commitment. Let's be intentional. I love that word. That is a beautiful, beautiful word, Jody. We're going to talk now. Jody's taken my leadership style quiz, and you can do the same. You can go right now, it's in the show notes, or go to the website, highvoltageleadership.ca. There's a little button at the top of the page that says take the quiz. Only takes a couple minutes, and you can follow along, find out if your leadership style is similar to Jody's. I'm also going to send you some of my top tips to help you be a more effective and impactful leader. But Jody, tell us, what was your result from that quiz and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, so it was not very surprising, but it was supportive.
Yeah.
Like, I think, admittedly, even though, like, sometimes I do just, like, there's a part, I think it comes back to maybe that driven part, whereas, like, oh, just get it done and da da da.
Yeah.
And you can just go, do this, do this, do this. However, I do tend to try, I have learned so much over the years as well, like working for people, seeing how they did
Yeah.
things, is to, like, if somebody's not performing, or there seemed to be something wrong, or there's been a couple of issues or something, things have slipped. Instead of going, you should be doing this, da 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 da, why didn't you do it? It's kind of like looking at it and going, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Like, is everything okay at your end? Like, especially, like, I've got a couple of people on the team who work in the Philippines, right? And quite often there's flooding and there's all sorts of other things going on there as well. So whether it's in the Philippines or anywhere else, it's kind of just making sure that it's like, okay, so this has happened, and is this unusual for them? Yes, okay. So let's see, is everything okay? Being aware, like, again, our guys all work virtually.
Yeah.
So if they're traveling around as well, just also being aware of that and going, okay, so how can we best support you as you are traveling around and you are still going to be working? I know firsthand how hectic that can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So how can we get this all, what systems in place so that you don't have as much pressure there? So yeah, and from past experience as well, it was like, I was in at one place where it was a very controlling, dominating environment. Like, you'd always be afraid of, like, your butt is going to be kicked if you do
Yeah.
anything wrong. As opposed to another place where I worked, where it was that more supportive, where it was like, okay, so this didn't happen. What can we do better? How can we make this better for you? Is there a system that we can implement so that this doesn't happen again? So I very much learnt from that as well. And I guess also with my own nature to, everyone tells me I'm so patient.
Yeah.
um, but also just to be providing that environment, because if someone does something wrong and they're afraid they're going to get their butt kicked, they're going to be less likely to sort of come forward with it, admit
Yeah.
it, or say what went wrong. However, if you have that open communication of, like, bring this to me and let's just discuss how we can avoid this next time, what we can do to better support you, then you're going to get better, better results, more transparency across the team.
I love that you brought that up because I think you're absolutely right. When we are supportive in the way that we lead, we actually, even if someone on our team makes a mistake or they miss something or screwed up, we're going to be able to, first of all, solve the problem more effectively instead of have them hide it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be able to learn and innovate from that. And it's when
Absolutely.
we create that trusting, supportive space that people feel like they can make mistakes. And sometimes from mistakes come really great creative new solutions, is the truth.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, we do have to be directive at some moments in time. We, as business leaders, we do have
Hmm.
to say, I need this done and I need it done on this date. Like, there's no
Hmm.
doubt there's moments we have to give direction. But when we can do that in a place where there's trust and safety because they know we're supportive, I
Yeah.
think we just get more out of our employees that way.
Absolutely. And I mean, unfortunately, I am often going, okay, I need this done today. As I
Right.
get creative and do all this thing, which I know, like leading a team is like you need to, and I'm very aware of like, I don't want my guys to have to work weekends. I don't want
Yeah.
them to have to work nights, even though they do because of time zones and
Right.
things like that. But it's, yeah, having things done in a way so that, yeah, we do less of that as possible.
Yeah.
And so everyone just, it causes less stress, it keeps people happy, and that makes for a great team.
Right? Well, and I know, I mean, particularly here in North America, there is a real war for talent right now. And,
Hmm.
keeping our top talented people in our businesses can be really tricky. And
Yeah.
by having a supportive environment where people feel like they can be themselves, and if they make a mistake, that you're going to help them figure it out, that is a way that we can retain our most talented people because they want to stay. They want to stay in an environment where they know that they're respected, right?
Absolutely. Like at the time of recording, there's a couple of young adults in my house who are like being treated really badly at the place that they work.
Yeah, that's
And
tough.
of course, and so both of them are like, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
You're putting this in. Because it's like, yes, you do not treat
No.
team like this. You do not yell at them. You do not keep going at them
Yeah.
with this and then causing chaos that they have to try and resolve. So and they're both great workers. So yes, absolutely, if you've got someone in your team who's great, you've got to look after them for sure, because how hard is it for you to go off and then you've got to train someone else and
Right?
do all those things, and is this person a good fit? No, start again. So yeah, 100% look after the great people.
You bring up such a great point, and I think this is the hidden cost of not being a great leader, is
Mm.
not only the training, but the cost and of time, effort, and money in
Hmm.
actually recruiting people. It's really expensive. It's really onerous. It's really time consuming. And I hope small businesses recruit all the time and do it more effectively. But the truth is, it takes time no matter how you do it, if you're going to do it right. And so,
Absolutely.
why, if you find the right person, why wouldn't you want to treat them well and keep them in your business?
Mm. Yeah, and that's where I think it can be a matter of like, well, personality style, but then also if you've hired too late, possibly, and that's what I
Yeah.
see like with a lot of ad managers I work with. It's like they've been busy, busy, busy. I need someone, I need someone, I need someone, and they get someone on board, and then they kind of just go, whew, phew, here it is, you do it. And then they go, and then they're still busy doing their thing. Ad managers trying to understand what they
Yeah.
need to do, how to best work with this person, what exactly they need to do. Meanwhile, the person who hired them is going, oh, this person just isn't working out. They're not doing this, this, this. Like they expect them to be a mind reader. So,
Yes.
and I am guilty of this. Like if I look in
Yeah.
my Slack channel at people that I've hired over the last however many years, it's like an employee graveyard. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot from all of that. And it's really, having, and I was listening to some of your other podcasts as well, and it was great of like, having that onboarding process,
Yeah.
meeting regularly so that you can do, and so you're not getting hounded
Yeah.
every day by questions that just
Yeah.
keep coming in constantly, and they go, why can't they just do their job? Having what I tell them to do, have a daily stand-up meeting saying, okay,
Yeah.
what's your questions from yesterday, what's the questions moving forward, so it can be done in like 10 or 15 minutes to avoid the back and forth all the time. And especially again, when you're working remotely and people are
Yeah.
on the other side of the world, you need to, otherwise days could go past before
Oh,
you go back and forth.
totally. I love it. That's really I love that advice. You're right. A great onboarding program that gets people the information they need right from the start, staying connected with them. It's not rocket science. I mean, what I do and what I talk about is not genius. But it takes a little time and effort to implement. But I love that you bring that up, Jody. That's really important. I want to ask you now, because you've been doing this a while. Where have you made mistakes or messed it up, and what have you learned?
Oh man, well, my biggest mistake it hurt. It really hurt. It was, a team member, super valuable team member, amazing. They did amazing work. They were great. However, like it was again a bit of a case of like, okay, I need someone in now, and got them on board, and they were amazing, and they did everything, and they were sort of new to the online space.
Mm.
However, it was like, okay, I want you to be my right hand. You can be my ops manager, and so this is it because they were doing really well. However, with that, they're just, as time sort of progressed and I was looking at, okay, who we're hiring and such, I was looking at it and going, okay, so the things that I'm hiring for is more to help this person not do so much.
Right.
Whereas I was still doing like a lot of the work.
Okay.
So even though I tried to get, okay, so the ops manager sort of role it wasn't being an ops manager. It was a
Oh,
title, but not
right.
the task.
Right.
I hadn't gone through and gone, okay, this is an ops manager's task. This is what needs to be done.
Right.
They were kind of still virtual assistant tasks, but
Right.
getting paid at an ops manager kind of thing. Meanwhile, I'm still doing a lot, like I said, amazing worker, would do anything. It was, really invested in it as if it was their business, but still it wasn't ops manager stuff. So I was still going, okay, I've got to do this and this, and then I'd hire to help that person. Whereas I was still doing like mega hours,
Right.
getting paid less than said ops manager. And it was like, there is something really wrong here.
Yeah. Yes.
So it was a very, very painful process of
Yeah.
having to recorrect that.
Yeah.
Where, and I was very aware of like, that person's been a great worker. I know they get stuff done and this is all awesome. However, this isn't working, right?
Yeah.
I'm the business, I'm doing all of this and all these hours that I'm working, it's just not making sense. And then also it's like, for the tasks and the misalignment from the
Right.
tasks and the title.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very painful process. And there's the Gina, I think it's Gina Wickman, it's the book Traction, where it's talking about there's going to be 48 hours of pain.
Yeah.
And it was like 100%, like you talk to anyone that knew me just in the week leading up to that, where it was like, it was clear I was going to have that very difficult conversation.
Yes.
It was not pleasant at all, not a fun experience, but I have certainly learned from it.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for offering what is a very vulnerable and as you said, very painful example. But I think it brings up a great point is that it is in your best interest as a business owner to really understand what are the things that need to be done and how do you group those things together, those so that you get the right person in the right role with the right skills and competencies.
Yes.
So that they can do what you need them to, like just spending that time up front. I know it's hard. We're all super busy in our businesses, but spending that time and effort up front to get it right gets you further in the long term. It's an investment, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do differently now, Jody, in your business after that kind of a painful lesson?
Right. Well, first of all, I'll have a look at, okay, what are the tasks and what's the going rate, and look at job descriptions. If this is the kind of role that I'm after, let me see these job descriptions
Yeah.
and what's the pay rate for these kind of things.
Yeah.
So that, because I mean, like for me, I just sort of, rolled into becoming an ad manager, then launching an agency and all the rest of it. So, and you can get very caught up like with this online space, with this online marketing and coaching.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of really expensive things, it's like, oh yes, it's $30,000 for 2 weeks coaching or something like that.
Sake.
So there's some huge numbers thrown around. And so I just followed some trends instead of like, okay, what is actual real world scenario? Like if I was to go to Indeed or Seek or Glassdoor, if someone's hiring someone, what are they looking at here?
Yeah.
And a mistake I think a lot of us make as well is that we end up hiring other entrepreneurs. So they see it as like, okay, this is my business and you're my client and I'm going to charge you this, high price, instead of like, okay, if you were often hired by somebody, you would be getting paid $22 an hour or whatever it may be.
Right.
So keeping those kind of things very realistic,
Yeah.
and then also being very aware of like, okay, SOPs, having these procedures in place. And so when people do come on board, it's like, this is how it goes. And I know a lot of it is easier said than done. Like, so when a new team member comes on board, right? Like, for example, one of the things we're wanting to work on is the social media sort of stuff in-house.
Right.
So again, that's going to come back to me in some level with a team member who is like, okay, this is what we want to do. And they don't know how to do Instagram sort of stuff. I don't really know how to do Instagram stuff. I'm a paid traffic specialist. So when you're doing the organic stuff and all those kind of things, it's a very different kettle of fish. Give me paid any day. But anyway, you need to do it all. And so it's like, well, I'd need to learn how to do it anyway. So we're sort of starting from scratch. So it'll be a thing of like, okay, identifying what our KPIs are going to be. Like, okay, outreach to 50 people a day, whatever it is. Our goals for our growth on this channel will be X, Y, Z. And then making sure there is that accountability. So, and having it in a centralized place. So it can all just come back to one spreadsheet. So I don't have to go and look at Time Doctor. I don't have to go and look at this. I don't have to, let's bring it all into one place so I can easily see what's going on, so that I'm not left wondering, did they reach out to 50 people each day? Did this? How are our numbers going? And, so getting it streamlined just makes it simpler for anyone, because then I don't have to suddenly tag them in Slack and go, what's the numbers for this week? Right.
Yeah.
So it's all nice and easy.
You know what? I love the way that you really articulated that it's got to be a process. And when we can really create great process for our people, they can feel they can feel successful in that process. And we can very clearly identify where there's issues or problems, and we can fix them more quickly. So I think that's genius, and just really being willing to invest in creating those SOPs and enabling people to add to that. Because I think what you do is you inevitably just create a library. As people are doing things, they want to add to those SOPs. And if you use Vimeo or Loom, or you can just show people right as you're doing them. And man, that makes your onboarding so much easier. I talk a lot about speed to contribution. That's the time from when you post a job online to when you have someone working competently in the role. And the faster you can do that, the better off your business is. And that's like, the truth is, there's an ROI there, right? There really is. But I think you're so smart to go and do your research. Go and understand, what does this mean in the marketplace? Does this role exist? Am I looking for a unicorn?
Oh,
like, am I looking for someone who doesn't skill set, like, because I do, Jody, I get clients that come to me and they're like, well, I want someone who is a virtual assistant but can do social media and is a copyright expert and does paid ads and also knows how to work Excel like nobody. And I'm like, whoa.
And I'm going to pay them. I'll pay them
$12 an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, right. See that all the time as well. It's like, oh boy.
It doesn't exist. So I think your idea of being, going and doing your research, being realistic about what makes sense. What are competency and skill groupings that actually go together?
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to have a detail-oriented assistant be your strategic genius on business planning. Those two skill sets are not the same.
Yes.
So I love that, because I do have to have that heartbreaking conversation with business owners on a fairly regular basis, that you're looking for 3 different people. Which one of those people do you need first?
Love it. Oh my gosh. Preach. This is
It's
so true.
It's so true.
Everyone, they want that unicorn because they see that, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, or I need to offload this. I want one person to do it all. But like you said, that's different parts of their mind, their psyche, and all the rest of it. So it's like, okay, which one do you want to hire first? That's going to, and this is where I would say, what's the thing that you need to get off your plate first of all, and hire for that. and then work your way up. So yeah,
Yes.
love it. Love it.
I think, you know what, you just nailed it. What are the things that need to come off your plate as a business owner so you can operate in your zone of genius, so that you can lead the business, so you can set that strategic direction? That's what you need to be doing as the CEO of your business. Those other pieces, yeah, let's find the right people and get them on board as quickly as possible. Jody, I could talk about this stuff all day. I'm so passionate about helping female business owners find the right people and create really great workplaces for them. So I could go on for hours, but I'm so grateful for these incredible lessons that you've offered the audience today. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your leadership with us. I really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure, Lindsay. And it's like, we go through these journeys, we make mistakes. And so then if we can share a bit of that to someone else and help them, sometimes, yes, avoid some heartache. But then I guess when you go through and you make that mistake, that's when you really do learn, and hopefully you don't do it again.
It's so true. And that's why we talk about them here on the podcast, because you're right.
Yes.
There's really great growth and learning and opportunities that come out of it. So thanks again for sharing yours with us today, Jody.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.